What's the time? Okay.
I don't, so I don't know.
We have a
I think that was the intention, but we have someone else.
We have Councilmember Wiggins on the line.
Oh, okay.
And Mike talking about.
Okay. Okay. Give me 1 moment and then we'll get started.
I.
I'd like to call the Duval Committee of the Whole workshop for May 5th, 2026 to order at 5:30 p.m. Welcome any members of the audience here this evening. And we'll begin with a review of the regular agenda. Any comments, concerns, feedback? I know Councilmember Wiggins, you're online as well, so I'll try to put your hand up and make sure to recognize you as well when you have something to say. Seeing none.
Is the one item on consent, does anyone, so on, if you flip it. I know there were some questions on the meter.
Yep.
So is there any, like, that all get resolved, or is anyone have anything else that they wanna? I think Councilmember Wiggins had questions.
And I saw Director Laniszewski.
There were responses, I just wanted to make sure if there were any follow-up questions, if anyone had any other questions on that. But I don't think so.
I did not. Thank you.
Thank you. So that brings us to the first discussion item of the evening, which is the initial work plan for the Parks Advisory Commission. And that conversation or discussion will be led by Director Laniszewski of Public Interest.
Well, good evening, everyone. Mayor, council, staff, citizens, Steve Laniszewski, Public Works. I do take this in absence of City Administrator McNabb. If the ship goes down too fast. Where is the green? So I guess for those who may or may not know, the code to have a Parks Commission, we discovered that we aren't sure it ever had been enacted in any way, shape, or form, other than maybe the hope with it being put in code. With that said, our Mayor McHenry asked that we get this moving forward. So we had actually, the mayor and I did interviews. We had 10 candidates, 11 candidates, one dropped out. We had 10. Everybody of the 10 was really good. It was interesting conversations, great ideas, different energies amongst all 10. So the easiest way to pick the 9 out of the 10 was the one app was late. So not to disparage that person or make anybody who was selected it feel any worse, but it was again, my expectations were, just kind of meh. I wasn't sure what to expect, and it was fantastic conversations with a lot of great people. And I know at least one of them is behind us sitting here today. So with that said, many of their questions are like, well, we go through our questions in time for you, like, oh, what are we gonna do? Like, that was pretty common. And we're honestly like somewhat not sure, but we have a little mini plan that we'll work on here. But certainly engaging the community, citizens, adults, seniors, every age group, just engaging them in parks activities, parks education, a lot of common volunteer threads. So it was a good conversation. So first off, all right. So yeah, I think early on we'll be working on kind of studying our plan. We do have a bit of a roadmap. Unlike maybe Cultural Commission was a little more fluid and centered, of course, on art and culture. This is centered on parks, what we have, where we're going, and the good news is we do have a roadmap for that through our Park Trails and Open Space Plan, which was just recently refurbished in 2024. So amongst that, there's work inside there, and then learning what our facilities and our parks are, looking at our current policies and what they are. We have a couple to work on in draft, but concessions is one of those kind of things that comes up. Like, oh, what kind of sounding board do we have besides council? And now we have some great opportunities with the Parks Commission. Part of the other items inside the PTOS, of course, are things that really aren't spoken loudly about, but we may all at one point may have heard about mountain bike park, aquatic facilities, and not to shun away from anything, but to open up those conversations and just, work with the community on what it is and what isn't, and how it gets to become real is part of process. So that is all very interesting conversations. And again, the full gamut of the 9 appointees, should they accept the appointment that we have on tonight. One ran an aquatic facility. What a great asset, and he may be sitting behind us. Other items, again, a lot of discussions on who needs to be served, and really everybody came from a little different element. People with kids, toddlers, teens, tweens, adults, and seniors. Quite a few seniors actually, and if some of you may know Paige Dennison, who's on our list, she's been around a very long time and works with seniors in her job. So she was very passionate about engaging seniors and getting them, to be active. And most common thread too is getting people and kids, especially off their phones and just out in nature. So we have a great opportunity with a lot of parks. We have a lot of things that are easy to pick up, but there's just not a lot of horsepower. We only have so many elected, we only have so many staff. So it did sound like a great group of people who have different energies that want to help showcase our parks, help sustain our parks, build our parks, and share them with the rest of the citizens. So it was actually a really good conversation. So next slide. So again, kind of things that are missing, we've talked about. I think the McCormick Park Master Plan is a big one, especially as of late. Sadly, because of the flooding and scour activity that occurred, which we're working on some grants for. But the park itself is a blank slate that in the early 2000s, late 90s, had a little energy on designing and developing the park to some extent, with a lot of low impact uses and non-sport related uses, but again, uses that were varied, and I think the community would certainly welcome. So maybe resurrecting some of that. Again, volunteer activation, noxious weed work, Friends of Parks groups, making up those other groups, working with our other departments. Stormwater, greatly has requirements of federal government that we must engage in. Doesn't have a ton of resources, but this group and that division can work well together, I think, in kind of making their own little path for this parks group too. Other community interested groups. It would be a nice place where we can start with our park rental structure. We come to council every year on our fees, but should we be asked by, mayor and council to, hey, just take a look at our fees and talk them through the places, that would be a good group to do that with. And again, they're not a working group, they're more of an advisory commission, but when work can be handed to us through council, that's a great place. And some of those things can be offboarded from you folks for other discussions that you may want to save some time on and have on hand. So the ball field engagement, not only for the existing field, but again, the future field, trails and everything else will be adding up there someday. And I think Cynthia made this bullet here. I'm not quite privy to what I think her and Rita cook up a lot of ideas, and then I'm usually informed when 30 days out and they need labor help, but there's apparently a bike event and a splash day event coming up. So
Yeah, one of those is next year, which hear me out a little
Yeah.
bit as well, because the bike event, I think, has been moved to 2027.
but with those two, you never know what's coming. They are a busy bunch. So yeah, and engage in local political and government advocacy activities. So be it another voice for our parks group. We are a small piece of the county, and we have all heard a lot of gripes on county activities in our area, whether it's lack of spaces and there's certain types of resources for use, and or spreading out and kind of spreading around the funding that Parks Levy has. So all good things for another avenue for outreach. So that's just kind of an update on what we put together to share with you folks. I think we'll make our own probably a little mission vision statement with the group. work on introductions for the first meeting, probably a lighter agenda, so to speak, with some homework. But we're gonna do first Mondays of the month. I think we picked a time, 6 o'clock. So
Is it just one night a month?
once a month, yeah, same as cultural commission. So that's all I have. I don't know, Mayor, if you want to add anything based on what you learned from our last 2.5 weeks of interviews.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a great group of people. I agree with everything you said. I'm excited to see this. I think the one, when we turned it over to questions with each applicant, I think the one common was the why now, why a commission? And my answer was, I think it's just the best consistent feedback loop for community engagement. Sometimes because they become appointed, we forget that it is community engagement when you have a planning commission, when you have a cultural commission. And so, surveys, hit or miss, right? And how many responses you get. But when you have a group of people that live in the city or in the areas that are serviced, it's really powerful to have that ability for staff to just go to them and to, get quick answers or relatively quick answers, paint colors. I know you said you don't like picking those, Steve.
Right.
But so, I mean, just things like that and just providing more opportunities for people to, get engaged because I think there's a big desire, especially around parks. So, yeah, that's about all I had.
Any questions from council for Director Lynch-Espy?
Well, I would like to see some attention paid to the McCormick Park Master Plan, because it's just like you said, it's a big open field, a lot of potential. It's okay for dog walking, but there's not really another reason to go down there unless there's summer stage or something like that.
Well, and we own the property all the way to the city limit along the river, west of the trail, all that space. And some of it can be activated, but it just needs, we don't have equipment for it, but there's a lot of acreage down there. So.
Councilmember Wiggins?
Yes, thank you. I had an opportunity to read all the resumes submitted for the commission here, and I was really pleased to see the distribution of backgrounds and time in the city and experiences. So I think you did a great job, guys, in pulling this together. Look forward to hearing some of the outcomes of their meetings. I heard Mondays once a month at 6 o'clock, and which one of our directors or from staff will be, I guess, leading them or joining those discussions?
I was handed a key earlier. We don't have a formal parks division, but they fall under public works. So public works will take it on. And Cynthia will participate. I think we'll get a little of Rita here and there. But yeah.
Oh, thank you, guys.
Other questions from council? I guess my only sort of question comment was, I know one of the things Mayor McHenry and I saw when we did the NLC conference was a lot of really innovative equipment, in terms of not necessarily targeting at youth, but whether it was Ninja Course, whether it was things that you could, put along the parking trail for teens or, and I know this specifically the work plan references programming. I'm assuming there was also, if they did a gap analysis and there were some identified small capital investments, they could also bring those forward as part of it.
Yeah, I think there was one more slide, sorry. But yes, we're open to all ideas parks related. And then this was a couple of these bullets, like everybody, I think one of our questions was like, what would you add to the park programming now? Volunteer days were great, but somebody was like, how do we activate a park? Maybe we bring a food truck to a park and post up an event, get some notice, a food truck, and just have I think we coined it like Piazza Thursdays, pick a day, but like showcase a park, have some activity at that park, and then just bring people out to try to get to know all the spaces we have. Yeah, updating some of the maps. So some of the images you see like on this screen or the introductory screen, those are park maps we have. Both of those were a trifold kind of brochure before, people went away from paper. But it was parks routes with description of kind of the loop and then the length, give people something to shoot for. A couple people at the open house we had, and there's State of the City was, hey, I'm new, I live, and I think they live in Old Town, like where can I get some trails or, some sidewalks? And they hadn't really ventured up to the top of the hill just because there's more actual sidewalks through the newer neighborhoods, and they're quiet and they're out of the way, and you can get off the main arterials and wander through some spaces. And they were, they just didn't know. So I guess sharing that information, and park tours and meetups, that was, a little group would do a walking tour through, Taylor Park. It's got a trail, that kind of stuff. So,
And I knew the two other things is sort of the wildlife piece of that, which is, I think talks to the paths and trails. And then just sort of the circle back from McCormick, I'm glad you highlighted all the way down, because it's like, it includes the boat launch. And I know in the past, we talked about even partnering with some activities or kayak rentals or things of that sort. So it just seems like a lot of opportunity. I appreciate it. You can.
Tying back to something you'd mentioned about like political advocacy and things like that is seeing how we also connect into all the regional trails as well. And all those connections is really important. And then one other park that I know I've been thinking about a lot is the Little Big Rock Park down by Safeway, and like what a reactivation of that tiny park would look like. And also knowing that that's a bit of a hot spot in general, Safeway, for certain activities, or, I know that's a regular thing to check on, is there's interesting things that happen there. And sometimes you see when you reactivate a space that crime and just in general goes down. I know Seattle, I always bring up the troll under the bridge as a prime example of why they did that, was because a lot of stuff was happening under that bridge. So they made it Instagram postable, and everybody goes down there now with all that extra traffic. It deterred crime from happening there. So anyways, I think there's just endless things that could happen. And I think it'll probably start initially like Cultural Commission did when it started up, which is there's some loose work plan ideas, but then they may start to hone in on something and bring us a work plan that they want you all to look at and approve for the coming years. So I'm really excited.
Councilmember Hernandez.
I actually really like the idea of spotlighting the parks. You brought up the Little Big Rock Park. I didn't know that was a park for years. Trucks have always parked in front of it, blocking it off, so I didn't know it was there. I thought it was just part of a display of Welcome to the City. So having that, like, let's put a food truck out there and have people come. I know it's a small spot, but if we don't have a lot of people who show up, it's still a nice place to say, hey, look, we got one of the smallest parks in the nation here. It would be nice to actually have that, because it actually does bring a lot of attention to, we not only have parks here, we have parks outside your neighborhood that that you don't know about. And I think that's a great idea. So I would love to see that.
I don't think any of those are mine. That was, literally everybody has some idea. That's great.
Have you noticed the cement blocks and the trees there?
And you're talking about that
The big rock. Yeah, the cement blocks, like someone actually, when I moved here, I had an old Duval guy from 30 years ago, put my deck in and explained to me the story of his buddy got drunk one night and tried to chop that tree down.
I don't think I noticed them.
You haven't seen those?
But I know there is mixed in terms of macadam removal and recommendations from the arborists, and it'd be nice again to
But I
reactivate.
thought that was a King County Park at one time. No, so it's been.
No, when I first started here, that road was still Big Rock Road. Safeway was just opening.
Yeah,
Safeway built that.
That's how I knew to turn to go home. 'Cause it was pretty-
It was a terrible access to the highway, for sure.
Well, thank you, Director Laniszewski.
Thank you all.
The second item for discussion this evening is an update on the municipal code, section 14.50, the sign code, and that would be led by our Director of Economic and Community Development, Bill.
Hello. We also have a slide deck for this one. But just to kick it off and stall for time while Kelsey digs through the file. So the city needed to assess the fact that the sign regulations were not being neutral content as required under the First Amendment. So this set of updates is to address that constitutional rights issue. Next line. Additionally, the sign codes are confusing because sign codes usually are. And they are also not consistent, which is also not terribly shocking. Next slide, please. So there's going to be, so this phase of sign code updates is to address these main issues. There is still a lot of work, a lot of opportunities for improvement within the sign code. That is not this effort. And our next phase of code updates where we can make good changes, we will be addressing this further. So this is not the only time you're going to be seeing this within the near future, but just to give you a heads up. So we're doing a little bit of streamlining, taking out content regulations, and doing some other minor updates for really basic clarifications that are needed. Next slide, please. There's quite a few things at this point that are not changing, but they can change in the future. So our categories, our permanent sign regulations and sign allowances. I'm hoping that we can all brainstorm on these things in the future. Next slide, please. And then other considerations is for the city to create a community banner policy. So in the packet are examples of banner policies for other jurisdictions along with the matrix of which characteristics they shared or didn't share. And these are for placement on light posts or other places within the public right of way. So these would be banners that the city is effectively endorsing. So generally, those are for content neutral, or sorry, non-commercial messaging for community events that have cultural significance, educational significance, something like that, where it's open to the public, not affiliated with a religious organization. It could be hosted by one, but it has to be open to all, blah, blah, blah. So any of those sort of public engaging events, having criteria that the banner be for something to that effect, but then also how it gets administered. And some of these are just first come, first served. Some of them are they get reviewed and approved by someone at the city, public works, city manager, planning director, whatever it is. So we are just requesting that you noodle on this banner policy for now. We're going to kick off discussions on May 13th with the planning commission. And so we're going to start brainstorming on that. And so the next time we come back with feedback from planning commission for what they suggest to be included within such a community banner policy. Next slide. Yeah. So we're moving along. Once we have a final draft completed, we're working on red lines. They're still a little rough, but we're getting there. And we're going to be doing future engagement with business owners, realtors, other stakeholders as appropriate, or whomever is interested. We love all the feedback. And then we'll be coming back to planning commission and city council. Any questions?
Any questions? Councilmember Rowland?
So are you looking for, you're doing this in 2 rounds, and like first you're doing like a basic update so you can compliant, and
Yeah.
then second you're doing.
Yeah. So the second round isn't scheduled or laid out yet. But when I came on board and handed this pile of work, I love changing code. But the direction was Avril, like this is just for the content neutrality. That's the focus. Stay focused.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're moving forward with this. There is so much more that is overly complicated, overly administered, overly processed, overly all the things that I really am hoping to get my fingers into once we get past this initial content portion. Yeah.
Can you then help us focus on what kind of feedback you'd like for this first round?
So the feedback now is mostly on the banner policy, because a lot of the changes we're making now are we have to do it or we're not in compliance with the Constitution.
Yeah.
But noodle on the banner policy.
Okay.
And then in the back of your mind, if you just generally think about what you like or don't like about local signs in the city. Just for when we come with that future work plan item, we'll be rare to go.
And just to add some context, and Councilmember Supple's probably familiar with this, and Mayor McHenry, we did go through an earlier round where we took some of the signage categories and we regrouped them so they weren't around like political speech, or they were more, again, generic in terms of neutral speech, but we didn't really get into the details. And I think this is what you're referring to is size and type. It was really more, that was the rating, that they were more into generalized buckets that were not targeted towards specific groups or organizations or realtors, or, you know, it was again. And so I think there's another round of that, but I did want to highlight, at least for folks who didn't have the background, is we did go through an initial pass in terms of some of our other signage to at least meet the letter of the law in terms of those requirements. The banner policies is one of the things that is addressed, and I think the other is the awarding of the banners right now is very subjective versus objective categories. So this, I think the guidance, the three examples, and I'm assuming we can pull from more than the three.
Yeah.
Would be to basically codify that into some language so that it would not necessarily, it would be an objective set of criteria in terms of how we determined what to put on banners and then how we awarded them. The piece that didn't necessarily surprise me, but sort of got caught up on this, is it wasn't just the banners across the street, but it would be things like the hearts that hang, because those are also considered, they would fall under the banner code. So something else to think about. So sorry, I didn't mean to jump ahead in terms of, but I did want to provide that feedback. Other questions from Councilmember Hernandez?
I did notice in here that under key changes, you have updated mural regulations. Just had a question, is that murals like such as coming from our cultural commission setting them up? Or are they more like the private ones for like Red Pepper Pizzeria?
So this would be
Or
for
both.
private, okay.
Sorry.
I thought I saw it, I'm
Thank you.
so they're currently under the temporary sign category, which is weird, because you paint a mural, it
Yeah.
usually stays there for a while. So taking them out of that classification, making it so that it's consistent with other sign language and formatting, and also updating the definition of mural, because generally they are artwork, right? They're not a commercial message. It's not gonna say like Coca-Cola over it. It's gonna be art. So let's address it as such. Yeah.
Other questions from council? Seeing none, thank you.
Thanks.
The third item of discussion this evening is also led by Director Beatty.
Baby. I'm a little bit.
Yeah, is the on the unit lot subdivision changes. So
this is a new section of code that we are looking to adopt. So this is in response to a Senate bill that was passed 3 years ago. If you are taking copious notes, it's Senate Bill 5258, which requires that cities have regulations for unit lot subdivisions. So next slide. In case you're asking, what is a unit lot subdivision? This is where you can take what gets referred to as a parent lot, so an existing property, legal lot of record, and you create these units. They're also referred to as child lots within the parent lot. And this is just to create a different form of property ownership. So if you have, if you look at the images on the left, the boxes, pretend that there are no dashed lines in between. Those units could become condos. And then there's an HOA that owns the lot and the building in common, and then people have exclusive airspace use of their unit. This unit lot subdivision would allow child lots within that parent lot so that each person could potentially own the dirt underneath their building. You would have the same form that would be allowed under the development regulations. Next slide, please. So required per the RCW right now, and this helps support different types of ownership. It can support different types of housing construction. It allows greater flexibility for what can be done in in the real world, not just in our code. So if you have a lot that has a detached accessory dwelling unit in the back, in theory, that lot could then be go through unit lot subdivision so that someone could sell off that ADU. And we've created like an affordable lifeline unit that would be like more modest, more affordable, probably not $1.2 million. Next slide, please. So you can also end up with smaller lots. I live in a townhouse. I love not having a yard to maintain. I feel like there are more and more people of my ilk that don't want to mow a lawn. Yeah, and Steve does raise his hand to that effect. So this does help encourage support that missing middle housing that the entire country is looking to have built. Next slide, please. And so this is just as an example, this is, I want to say on Valley, up the road from the Thai restaurant.
Yeah.
There's one lot, it's got 5 single-family homes on it that are condominiums. This already exists. So this regulate these unit lot subdivisions don't change what's allowed to be built. It just changes how people can own their homes. But as you can see, there are 5 units, 5 homes on this lot. Part of this is unit lot subdivisions under the RCW have to have the same process for approval as a preliminary short plat. In the city of Duval, a short plat is 4 or fewer lots. The RCW allows a short plat to be up to 9 should a city adopt an ordinance to that effect. So as of today, well, sorry, not as of today. Let's pretend like we already have a unit lot subdivision that follows our current short plat processes, and it would be for up to 4 lots only. This property would not be eligible for an initial 5 unit lot subdivision because it would exceed the 4. So this would have to then go through a long plat process, which has to be heard by the hearing examiner, appealable to the Growth Management Hearings Board. Yes. And so this is another thing to noodle on for now. We are currently drafting the regulations to just follow the current short plat procedures before unit lots within the 1 parent lot. If the council so chooses in the future, we could reconsider how many lots we consider as part of our preliminary short plat. Just noodle on that. If we decide down the line to add that to the work plan, I'm happy to do so. So just yet another thing I would love for you guys to marinate on. Next slide, please. So we're going to be discussing this with the Planning Commission as well. And then we're going to be presenting red line amendments for discussion this fall and having everything to you, hopefully in such wonderful condition that you adopt without any objections by the end of the calendar year. Any questions?
Questions from council?
Just have a comment, sure.
Councilor Rowe?
So overall, this seems like a good thing in terms of increasing affordable housing, which I think is important. My concern is there's a lot of nuance that can get introduced when you start doing this, and it would be, I think it's important that I think there's areas in the Duval in the code that are probably lacking around this type of development. And so I think before we increase the number from 4 to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that we have clear standards in our code about how to handle that kind of development. I just a couple notes I had, clear standards around the parent lot compliance, density limits, common area maintenance, fire disclosures and responsibilities, future modifications, things like that. There's a whole lot of problems that can arise with that stuff if that's not clear. So I don't know how much of that comes out of our code, and not. But I think we need to be mindful about that.
Yeah.
Before increasing the other limits. So yeah.
Cool.
Other questions, comments? Councilmember Supple?
Well, by virtue of that one parent lot with 5 houses on it, what needs to change in the code to, it seems like people can already subdivide their lots, right? Or is-
So a subdivision, if you go back to that picture,
It was like the long versus the short.
this would have to go through okay, caveat. I don't know the overall setback between these structures.
Yeah.
And so if lot lines were to be drawn in between the buildings, I don't know if then those houses would conform to our current setbacks.
Sure.
So with a parent lot, but this is, I'm glad you brought this up. So with a parent lot, the setbacks are along that parent lot perimeter property line. The interior setbacks of the homes to each other would not have to follow the larger setbacks of a parent lot. So generally they are smaller. There's like separation minimums when you have middle housing regulations. So these are things that would need to be part of the zoning code updates. This is just the process to get through the land division component of it. But then the development standards themselves would be in a different section of Title 14. Am I answering your question?
Well, I'm just a little curious how they managed to do that. Way with it without.
And I think these were built, because I did look it up and I'm trying to remember now. I want to say maybe like 20 years ago. Like, those have been there a while.
Yeah.
Long ago? Okay.
I didn't drink 25.
Well, there you go. Over 25.
I don't honestly know how that's. It's like condo law. I don't know. I have never seen the paperwork. All I know is like a real set, like you already have this kind of in some spaces.
Mhm. And so as far as life safety issues go, for this existing thing, building code looks at what opening protections do you have to the perimeter outside property line. So you would have to have your fire ratings from that. When you have buildings within a property that are the same occupancy, so all residential, exact same residential occupancy, there's no separation requirement for fire ratings between them. So this might not, if you were to try to throw in property lines, like may not be to any sort of planning regulation at all whatsoever, but it might be fine with building code because two very different sets of regulations.
The homes were built in the early 90s, 94-ish.
Oh.
And it is, we've all run across this thing. It is very strange. It lists it is condo duplex because there are not lot lines. And again, for my time, I'm not sure what ultimate process they used to subdivide and or aggregate. Old Town is really strange too. It has 25 by 100 size lots and the old grid and the original subdivision of or the original plat of Duval. So Old Town is definitely a strange animal. So yeah.
Councilmember Hernandez?
I just had a couple of comments on this. I'm huge on affordable housing, so I'm don't have a problem with the divisions or anything. And I'm also assuming that this is going to be moving forward. When we have a development come in, they'll have a lot and they can subdivide it out. My only real concern is if we decide to put 9 on a lot, that's a very crowded lot.
So you would still have to meet density so that the physical, if you weren't aware of any lines on a map, what gets built out in the real world would still have to meet the same density, setbacks, height. So visually, things would look the way they would be allowed.
Okay.
It's just a way to have a piece of paper referring to that piece of dirt.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was worried it would have a block
No,
of
it doesn't.
9 houses in one spot.
Yeah, no, it doesn't change density. It's just
How we
to
do it.
allow like baby subdivision.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the question comment I had sort of was along those lines. I know that sort of the density zoning or the zoning map, this sort of takes precedence. We've obviously been discussing some upzoning, so R4 to R8, in which you could create additional essentially 0 lot line
Yeah.
lots
Okay,
within
yeah.
that space. my few questions or my comment was, in some ways, I think this also goes hand in hand with the ADU provisions that have come out, because you could then potentially sell the ADU as a separate property rather than sort of part of the core property. So I think it's also some flexibility in terms of land use from the landowners. But I was gonna ask you to clarify, in reading through the packet, there was a differentiation between multi-story condos and sort of one level in terms of how some of this regulation applied in terms of, that I wasn't clear of in terms of the short plot provisions versus this ability to subdivide, and whether it was a multi-story or a single story property within.
So this would be for, horizontal division of land. We would have property lines going up and down, whereas condos can be vertical
Okay.
because they can stack on top of each other.
I think you addressed the question, and that's really the main thing in terms of how you think of the ownership in terms of within.
So. Trying to think ahead, try to think through like all the iterations. What I don't think could happen, but I'm not sure, and I can find out. Is if you have the child unit or the child lot, a unit lot, and you have a home in it, and then someone says, I want to divvy up that home and have an ADU, but then condo the ADU. I don't think that is allowed, but I am not 100% certain. So I don't want to say with certainty that that's the case. But if you would like an answer to that question, I can find out and report back.
And I think it was the difference is you could sell condos, a 3-story condo, you could sell them as 3 different units. Versus this rule, you're only dividing the land within the lot.
Yeah.
And it needs to be sold in its entirety.
So I think of this as controlling dirt.
I know you came late, Councilmember Kozlowski, any questions about this topic before we? We want not to have a context.
No worries.
So that is our last discussion item this evening. Thank you. We still obviously have about 45 minutes. So we can move, before moving on to the good of the order, if we want to move some of the reports. If I don't know who's doing the city administrator's report this evening. If we want to start with the mayor's report.
Usual suspects, yeah.
Okay. So,
Do you want me to do mine?
yeah, you can
Okay.
start with yours.
All right, so as we already covered, Director Lenashevsky and I finished all 10 parks, or sorry, no, yeah, it was 10 Parks Advisory Commission interviews. It was 11 total applicants, 1 withdrew, 1 was late submission. So even though they're all fantastic, we used that late submission to, as the easy elimination. But I'm just really excited about the energy and ideas from this group that will have in this commission. And then I had a preliminary meeting with City Administrator McNabb and Director Beatty regarding ideas for economic vitality in Duval. So then we had one-on-one meeting with a business owner that I knew, like there are some business owners that have longer histories and I know a lot of feedback for the city. So I'm trying to just have one-on-one meetings with them. And then we do have 2 scheduled small business roundtables in the coming weeks as well. And I think we already have 4 signed up for one and 1 signed up for the other, but we're gonna just keep reaching out and fill probably just up to 10 spots on those. And just the idea is to just get feedback for our new director and myself and just think about what we can do to support businesses in Duval. Had my quarterly meetup with Dr. Leach, the Riverview School District superintendent, and then Mayor Pro Tem went on this as well, but I did the PTAC airfield tour, which was really cool. I mean, it was funny because the person who does the tours all the time and said it's always cool. And I think you've done it before also, right? Yeah.
Last round.
Yeah. So, I mean, really fascinating. You learn so much. The highlights for me personally were that they make all of their grass in the fields bitter and bad tasting, which deters rodents. So less rabbits, less rats means less raptors and less bird plane conflicts. And they also have Swedish goshawk traps all over, which is really cool. If you don't know what that is, it's this neat looking contraption. They have live, very well cared for pigeons that are safely in a mesh cage during the day, and the hawks can't tell that there's mesh. So when they come down to get the pigeon, it slowly closes, and then the biologist gets the text and they go and relocate them. Though they do let some live around the airfield because they're very territorial, so it scares off others. So anyways, I had a nerd out on the bio stuff, but it was super cool. Also, FIFA is coming, so as CTAC, there's going to be 3 weeks of just higher activity then. So if you can avoid traveling, then try to. If not, but they're pretty prepared for it. So I attended the first King County Flood Control District Advisory Committee meeting of the year. It was pretty standard. The executive director had an emergency, so couldn't be there. So it was a really light agenda. But I can keep you posted as more things come up with the budgets and things like that. So I attended the UW Students Coffee and Community Workshop. I didn't participate, I just was observing. I wanted to let the community members do that, but I chatted with them afterwards and I think they did great. So I'm excited to see their presentation. I think the next council meeting they'll be coming back, right? The Holy Celebration in Depot Park was amazing. I got covered in color. Councilmember Hernandez was there also. I think you also got covered in color. Nobody walked out there untouched. So it was really fun. And then I held my first youth roundtable at Cedar Crest High School, which really engaged a group of students, highlighted their feedback is the desire for an arcade in town. And I quote, not the kind that takes cards, but real coins. They don't want a Dave and Buster's, they want old school arcade. Teens commented that they feel really welcome in town. They feel like nobody looks sideways at them when they go into restaurants or shops. And I thought that was really interesting feedback from them and made me really happy. They said walking even on sidewalks can be stressful when cars don't slow down, and they just feel a little less safe when cars go buzzing by really quickly. They love walking downtown. Transit is tricky to figure out and can be stressful, but overall, besides the fast cars, they feel safe enough to walk downtown by themselves or walk around Duval in general. They wish there were more places to hang out. They would love to see real life lesson type classes at the library, like how to do taxes, what is insurance all about, that kind of stuff. I'm not sure if us adults have much to teach them about insurance because I'm still trying to figure that out, but changing a tire, things like that. They just had a lot of great ideas. I attended PSRC hosted a joint board session on addressing underserved communities in our region. This session, I think it's a series of them, and this one was focused on revisiting the importance of building inclusive and resilient communities with opportunity for everyone in Puget Sound region. So it was really focused on systemic racism and other things like that. So it was really a really good meeting. We just yesterday met with Rep. Goodman, with Director Lanishevsky and I. We took him down to McCormick Park and showed him the shoreline and all of that. And it was a really great meeting. Just discuss what we're doing, how we're addressing it. And that's just a part of our broader strategy to engage all of the electeds and make sure they know that's happening. So if a bigger ask comes up, that it's not a surprise to them. And then just this morning, attended the SCA North Mayor's meeting. We had a guest speaker about FIFA. So that's, just the ongoing thing, all of us, everybody. We don't have anything official happening in Duval. But one takeaway that's important is businesses like the Tavern or other places that might be playing soccer games, that they get that service. It's okay for them to have soccer watch parties. It's just they need to be careful to not use key terms like FIFA, World Cup, official. I mean, you can easily find it online that there's certain things that they shouldn't use when advertising. So I thought that was interesting. And then lastly, just starting to begin conversations on King County Regional Homelessness Authority. There's been a big budget deficit there and also some audit things happening. So just to keep that high level and light, but SCA is trying to feel out, and this might have come up in PIC as well. I'm not sure if they've touched on that yet, but just what concerns do cities have when we start talking about what a solution is that to that regionally. So I think the main theme that came out, at least, for me and some others is, often we can pick out the problems or say, this isn't working, let's just stop this. But instead of tearing something down, what are you going to build in place? And so for me, at least, it's always, what's the transition look like? Can you build something new while also stabilizing the best, to the best of your ability, what's going on there? So I think there was not a lot of sense of let's burn it to the ground, but let's, let's make sure these organizations that are doing good work and that are essential for people, like especially in the Snoqualmie Valley, are able to continue while we figure out this other thing. And also that there is value in a regional solution. I mean, I think you see that with almost everything, especially the most recent thing I can think of is like mental health support with police services, right? Every jurisdiction was reinventing the wheel and coming up with their own thing. And you could see benefit from regionalizing that aspect of mental health services like King County was trying to do with their service centers. So anyways, just interesting conversations, and I'll keep you posted as always when more comes up.
Thank you.
Sorry, that was long.
Sounds like you're on kicking off the city administrator's report.
That's the first slide.
Public Works is usually up there.
I tried to move it. I think John doesn't play fair. Boss of the share wall. Like, yeah, gotta keep somebody else happier than me. All right, good evening, Steve Lynchevsky, Public Works. Let's see. Yeah, graffiti. So, top left, if you don't go to Big Rock Ball Field all that much, the big cabinet on the entrance, not on the street side, but once you're in the parking lot, between the parking lot and Field 3, I think it's an 8-foot line, 12-foot cabinet. Anyway, they got graffiti all over it. That's fun. The crew are out crack sealing this week. We're a little later than we had hoped, but manpower and schedule dictate. But we crack seal the roads. Typically, we don't touch roads that need crack sealing if they're on our overlay schedule. That can mess up your overlay. So if we're not going to do anything for 2 years out, we will go and crack seal. So they're on 275th today. I think they went edge up on the hill, and they have a list of roads they work with our group on to see which roads needed based on our Transportation Benefit District, or TBD CIP. And then our TBD has its own list of roads, and they are all rated from 0 to 100. 80 and above are pretty much new. 50 to 70 are in that target range to treat with preventative measures to crack seal. If you know what a crack seal is, it tars up the cracks so water doesn't migrate through the asphalt and into the subgrade. That's usually when your roads start to fall apart, is once the subgrade is exposed to moisture and the elements, freeze and thaw. So just the best time of year is when you have a drastic swing in temperatures between cold and hot. Believe it or not, right, everything moves, thermodynamics. So when it's cold, those cracks shrink, and when it's warm, or when it's cold, the cracks get big, and when it's warm, they kind of shrink out and you're kind of fake. So you want to get them right between seasons. So that's what they're working on. And then I put a couple notes on here. So fuel costs, just so you folks know, right, we have our own 1,000-gallon fuel tank, and we buy off-market fuel that does not include the required taxes for government agencies. So you can buy them, track them, and then seek reimbursement at the end of the year, which is a lot of work for finance. We just buy them from fuel dispensing agents or a company that sells it to us without the fee in it we wouldn't pay. So right now we're on 10% under market. So and that's the low. Like if I comp it against $4.99, it's obviously a lot more than 10%, but the lowest price in town, I think yesterday morning or today when I did this, was $5.39. Without your safeway discount, of course. Next slide. And we have some engineering. I'm trying to break it up for you. So engineering, the Squirrel Bridge has received its final approval. If you haven't seen it yet, it's east of 270 on 142nd.
Oh, yeah.
So it's the cutoff road that gets you from 270 towards the mobile home park and then out towards Big Rock Road on a little side road. It was privately funded and privately installed. They did get a permit. We did waive the fee since it is a public benefit to the squirrel. And he was very gracious. And it was the fellow who was up for the open council seat when you guys interviewed, I think, just the last go round. So he was just very happy, and I hope it does what he wants. Right now, we haven't seen any positive or negative feedback, but I did reach out to him. Let him know we're happy for him, and if he's interested in a ribbon cutting with the mayor, to let me know. We'll go officially cut the ribbon on the bridge. And then Toll Brothers is paving the Ridge Big Rock Phase 4, which is the last phase of their development. So project people thought would never happen and never end is finally coming to an end. It has been a very long time coming, so things are going fine in there. They're working on their final repairs, so they have to repair curb, gutter, concrete sidewalk, trees, irrigation, the whole 9 yards. And once we accept the improvements, then they're on the clock for 2 years to finish maintenance bond work. We are still working with them on the whole parks, which are now 2 Moons North and South. Those are public parks. They are maintaining them until they're approved with their development activity. So they're still lagging on some repairs. You won't see it mostly on the surface. It's below ground stuff, but working with them to finalize that. And then on our overlay ourselves, they will be starting in the next few weeks. They're going to work on storm drain first before they get into full overlays. But we are a little concerned. I don't know if they'll walk away or what, but when they bid this, the Waukdon puts an index out for payment. So I can't tell you if it's $495 per ounce per day per mineral per rock. It's just an index they have. So when we bid the job, the index was at $495. Now the index is 607, so it's up almost 23% in 3 months. So there are provisions where we can adjust contractually, but they're not quite there. It's usually 25% per state spec. So anyway, we're hopeful to get the work done. We feel bad on the bid price, but that's just kind of contracting 101. But just I thought it was worth sharing or watching that kind of stuff. Next slide. And then last but not least here, we did receive a Eagle Scout proposal. Very nice. I can tell his brother did a project and his dad is an engineer. So he put a nice proposal together. The whole thing, didn't spend a whole lot of time because not really yet, but a whole narrative, some images, what he'd like to do, funding and all that. So he'd like to turn the poll, which needs more information shared on it. So he'll ascertain the information, and then his idea was each decade gets a column of some sort. I don't know if it's basalt or if it's wood, but some sort of column per decade on the highest flood level in that decade. So it's more visual than a line on a stick. So obviously it was very fresh. He would update the science and stuff. So I thought it was a great idea. He did hope that it could be climbable, but sadly it will be the bearer of bad news. But without fall protection and stuff, some of those are going to be 70 inches off the ground. So that's a big playground pile of chips. That's not quite. I hope I don't break his spirit, but yes, the physical installation itself would be really cool. Better than a pole kind of thing, and a neat idea that he came up with. So anyway, that was just fresh. I think it came in yesterday. I finally got to read it today. I think that's my last slide. Any questions from how it works or somebody else goes? Yes, sir.
Yeah, the street with the Squirrel Bridge, Northeast 142nd.
Yes, sir.
But when I drove down there this evening, the west end, the road is buckling. It's got all these waves.
The road?
The road.
Oh, yeah. That was from the
What's
intersection of, he's talking about these. So the intersection just to the east of this is 278 and 142nd.
Yeah.
That's where we have the water main hit by Zipley. So the subgrade has failed, but we are going to incorporate that repair into our overlay because we're going down 278 into Parkway.
Oh, that was from the water main break?
Yeah, when you hit a water main and you lose 100,000 gallons of water in 5 minutes under the ground, it's going to move a little more than just asphalt. So there's probably rock pockets and voids down under the asphalt.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
It's like service of the moon. Yeah. It's not exciting at all. It's irritating. I'll get out. Yeah. Anything else? All right, thank you.
Mr. Director, Kate.
Hello again. So, community and economic development, we would like to just give you a general heads up on the WUI, the Wildland Urban Interface Regulations. Nothing's happening, that's the update. There were major, I don't know how familiar you are all with the WUI here. this was an attempt by the state to have stricter fire protection regulations that would apply to the entire state of Washington, where they were taking a very high level approach that would be so conservative that it would protect Eastern Washington, but have blanket regulations over the entire state, even though we are very different climates and humidity levels and growth of vegetation, all the things. So after lots of pushbacks from various counties and cities, the state said, okay, fine, we recognize our initial map was not very good. We will reevaluate it. And so in addition to reevaluating where they were identifying areas of high risk, they also finally took into consideration that that these regulations, the initial risks assessments were based on the amount of human-made assets as well as fuel availability. So where we have our more temperate rainforest with all the trees, lots of fuel, and they said, oh, you have homes and lots of fuel, therefore you are high risk. And then they finally took into consideration, oh, your actual climate has too much humidity, there's too much moisture. This is actually not a high risk. So new maps are going to be coming out showing basically all of Western Washington as not being high risk. Therefore, the wildland urban interface and intermix regulations that had really strict regulations about defensible zones was not going to be applicable in our neck of the woods, pun totally intended. So that'll be coming formalized later this year. So that's the WUI. The James Clyde project, we have just started the second round of review of revisions. And we are anticipating that the project will be introduced with design review by Planning Commission this summer. Definitely by the end of the summer, that's a conservative estimate. So that is moving along. And there's going to be some questions about height and architectural compatibility that we will be presenting to them once we've kind of nailed down the overall big beefier parts of the design of the project. As far as setbacks and parking and all that fun stuff. Acres of Diamonds is now had its second round of review completed. Comments have been sent back to the applicant. And the only things that still need to be addressed are the tree removals and the tree protection. So we will be working with the applicant to get that in compliance with our regulations. Any questions?
Councilmember Rowland?
For the WUI. What are the implications of not being mapped into a higher risk area? Is it an allocation of resources or?
The way it would affect, it could affect insurance costs.
Okay.
That was a big part of it. Yes, absolutely a good thing. Additionally, it was going to wreak havoc if it did apply to Western Washington, because a lot of our cities have trees as something that's highly protected, an important part of our environment, the character of a city, and the WUI would have overridden any local controls for tree preservation and would have required any tree that had a crown, so the drip line of the tree, within like 10 feet of a structure could be removed to have like this big open defensible space.
Wow.
And when you have a normal residential neighborhood, we could be losing all the trees.
Right.
So there was a lot which only makes fire risks worse when then the soil dries out and then there's much more ground fuel, and it felt like it wasn't getting thought through all the way. So there's a lot of relief that they are now taking the climate component into it and realizing, no, even though you have assets and you have the fuel, you're actually low risk.
And I think it had to do some additional controls they were gonna force on construction types within the movie zones.
Yeah.
Like no decks, right? All concrete. It was pretty aggressive.
Non-combustible materials within like 5 feet of the footing of a house. And so then I went to some like trainings and whatever, and some people were asking, well, isn't there some non-combustible or like, fire retardant mulch or bark I could put around my house, and all the fire guys were like, yeah, well, gravel. You wouldn't be allowed to have any vegetation around your house.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there is that as well.
Okay, I mean, it's a good thing, but it's just so off on their scale. I mean,
Yeah,
it's great to be firewise, great to understand, you know, how to plan, know what to do your best around your house, but like the dictating of what was gonna happen.
Yeah.
Was pretty crazy, like,
a little bit of overreach.
yeah. Especially right out of the gate, it's kind of a new, you know, program in this area, so. Luke from our group was working with community development on that task force.
Thank you.
I will turn it over to Chief for the next slide.
Good evening, council, and, fellow, City of Duval employees. One of the things that we talk about is recruitment with the police department, and it's always ongoing. And, we, worked through this process, during the first part of this year. Of how do we make ourselves more interesting to those that want to apply? And there's two different processes that people go through. One is, in order for them to be seen by us, they have to go through a testing process. And there's testing at home, there's testing at different facilities and sites. But there's also the ability for us to put a 1-minute video onto those sites. So when somebody is looking for an agency where they want to work, they can look at that video and get an idea of what's going on, especially if we're not around to answer those questions. So it's a 2-part process. Right now, we have the 1-minute video, and we're gonna premiere it tonight. It came in today, and so I'm sorry I didn't bring popcorn for the premiere, and no red carpet today, but it's a 1-minute video that's going to go to that testing site that's gonna allow that. We're also gonna post it on our social media, and we're in the process of creating a longer video that we can put on our website that deals with more of the in-depth review of our agency and talk about some of the personnel we have working for us to kind of have somebody see that in a longer process. So as I starting with Officer Clark, Sergeant Paul, Sergeant Clark, Officer Milam, Officer Gilling, and myself in no particular order. But it should be pretty interesting to display it. So. Since we'll get it there. So this is in coordination with RMB Productions, which is also a local Duval company that does this. So. Let's cross our fingers. Yeah, that's it. We also incorporate some drone footage too, but there is some that was already available. They've done some work for Duval before and some of the events. Well, a silent movie, but.
It's just a hard thing.
Yeah, it's a challenge doing with teams. Sometimes you just have to play it through the local device, but.
Yeah, we can do that, Kelsey, too. If you send me the link, I can log in and share something. I've never gotten any video from that thing successfully. But
It should be in the meet and the presentation folder for CA.
I did.
I just don't want to do the feedback, you know. Okay,
It is really, that's trying.
I'm gonna try it.
Yeah, RMB is a great. Video. And echo.
Just,
It's going to give us feedback.
and it's still,
Let's see.
but we can share it.
The PowerPoint. In the PowerPoint, so that it's in the PowerPoint cell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a link there. Should be the other section behind.
Right.
Reminds me of a TV commercial where the guy's up there presenting, he's a security chief or something, and he's trying to log into his computer and it was this password 1, 2, 3, 4. Technology.
When I worked at Nintendo, we had an E3 presentation that was supposed to show how well the new Wii Remote Plus worked, and it failed on stage.
Should be the waiting room, Kelsey,
Go back.
Steve's in there.
Oh,
you can add me and then authorize me to share. Should I put on my screen stand?
Yeah.
oh, wait, we might have a solution.
You just do the
The anticipation.
Yeah.
The
I know it's really helpful to have us all chiming in. Be like, no.
Okay, here we go, starting over.
What if the best department for your career wasn't the one you expected? If you're looking for a department where you're more than a number, you're part of the community, and you're supported by your department, Duval may be the fit for you. Thank you for taking the time to test and considering a career in law enforcement. Here, our officers aren't just responding to calls, we're building relationships. We stay connected to our community, and we see our cases through from start to finish, which means real responsibility and real growth early in your career. You're supported by leadership, trusted by community, and given the opportunity to make an impact every single day. If that's the kind of department you're looking for, we'd love for you to send your test results to the Duval Police Department. We are proud to serve here, and we would be proud to serve alongside you.
Really, it's a little jerky because of the
Yeah.
internet, but last through they're very short to the point, let people know what's going on and. I really had not much to do with it. It's usually the creative folks that we have working for our agency that help create that whole process and work through it, so. Can't wait to see the bigger one, but we're gonna get that out in the next couple of days and start for testing here.
Good, yeah. Are they intentional in front of the booze cabinet and Safeway or? That's not like that call.
I guess I'll do this.
Turn it over to the clerk.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff. John Botero, City Clerk. So it starts off big time. Jonathan, who is our admin assistant, is moving over to building as their building inspector. We have shared custody. We haven't gotten one in front of a judge, but we have an agreement. And internal recruitment is now open. I believe it closes tomorrow, and then today, closes today. So we're gonna open it on Thursday for external applicants, and it cannot be replaced, just merely succeeded. So we're hoping that the next person will be just as good as him. And as many of you might have seen in emails and social, and maybe on LinkedIn, Mike Fisher retired. He started walking the mean streets of Duval just at the same time that Elliot Ness or Kevin Costner and Sean Connery were doing the same in Chicago in The Untouchables. Milk was $1.09. Damn.
Wow.
And a loaf of bread was 55 cents. It was 38, almost 39 years, 38.8. I remember Steve's email correctly. Truly an inspiration in public service for lasting that long. And the recruitment process is continuing for principal planner, I believe. And Avril, please correct me if I'm wrong, there are some really strong candidates. So we're hoping to get to the finish line, Next slide. So we had a good turnout on the workshop on the 25th here at the Visitor Center. The University of Washington students did a really nice job in the way they set up the room and the way that they managed the entire event. And there is a survey that was posted online, I believe, over the weekend in English and last night in Spanish, so that they can gather more information from those who could not attend the event, and hopefully have those voices that could not make it to the event, have them included. Next slide, please. And I brought receipts about Polly. Thank you all who attended the event. It was an excellent event. The turnout was a little lower than last year, but we suspect that the nice weather might have had something to do with it, and also sports and all that good stuff. But regardless, it was still an awesome event. And next slide, please. Finally, a reminder, we have some upcoming events like Dual Poetry, but I know most of you cannot make that one, so you can tell your friends. It's on the first Tuesday of every month at 7, Stargazing on the 16th at 10, Touch a Truck on the 20th from 2 to 5, and Minecraft at Doherty Farmstead on the 29th after dusk. And that is all I have. And if anybody has any questions.
Any questions from council?
Thank you.
So we can go out and tell you know, how many council reports we have this evening. I have a couple of dates, but we could probably squeeze those in before go to the order. The mayor already touched on the FDA for, we were told it was SEA, not CTAC, coming on it. So my sort of takeaway is sort of similar things. I mean, some of these I kind of knew, but there were a couple of the biggest or the record setting, the highest crossover between the international terminal, that bridge, that's the highest, they said basically a 747 could land on its tail and it would still not hit the top of the bridge. It also, the third runway is the highest embankment in the United States. And I think the interesting takeaway for that is there's some beautiful artistic friezes of birds that you never see unless you do the runway tour. So they've got this whole art installation that you never see, but there were a lot of just interesting takeaways, and including, I guess we got sort of a preview of the new terminal and where that will be built. But obviously it will not be here to benefit the World Cup. Last week, I guess on Friday, I had the first meeting of the Legislative Priority Commission, Priorities Committee for SCA. We met for 5 hours down at the Seattle Hilton. I think there's the next meeting is actually during the AWC conference in June. And I got some updates. There were a couple of legislators there, including the speaker, in terms of how engaged, but also just folks, put out some of their ideas. I will tell you, just share with the clerk, it's like there were at least 6 or 7 about the public records, and I was like, is that the hill we want to die on? So that was sort of the I think there was a lot of shared feedback from the communities, but it's also one of the more intractable issues. So I think it's one we'll work on margins, and then there were some not higher priorities, but sort of more broader legislative priorities that I think over the next couple sessions will distill, sort of figure out how to approach, and then propose to the board for adoption later this year. And then my last one was really, let's see if I can find details because I want to get this right. Each year I work with the Society of the American Revolution for their state conference. So I do all their committee conferences, and the president of the Cascade Centennial chapter, which is the largest chapter in the state, based here in Bellevue, had reached out to me, and they actually have an opportunity. There's a Liberty tree so at a state level, they want to plant. The tree dates back to Well, it's a historic tree that the original tree was damaged. And they grafted from both seedlings and from new trees, come up with a number of seedlings. And he essentially approached me here in Uvalde. We would be interested as sort of a Tree USA city. We mentioned the park and some development opportunities. And if it's something the council would be interested, they'll reach out to the city arborist in terms of, you know, if it's a single tree or to Public Works, it can be directly to you, Steve. Just to sort of talk about the specifics. It's not a lot of care, but I think it's tied to the 250th celebration. And I was, you know, thankful that they kind of looked to Duval as an opportunity. But no commitment at this time, but, you know, we provide some details if you could just a point of contact for that. And that is my updates. I guess the only other thing is from the good, if there's any items for the good of the order this evening.
I actually had a council.
Yes. Oh, yeah, sorry. No, that's all right. Councilmember.
First off, I just want a quick apologies for the phone noise. I thought I heard my sensor alarm go off. But I had a chance to attend the Holy Festival that we had a few weekends ago, as you saw in the picture up there. Amazing experience. It wasn't just fun, but something that I was really happy about was that it created a space for a cultural tradition that's not widely represented here. And it was shared with the wider community. There was music, there was food, I love Indian food and the samosas. Could do a little more, maybe some vindaloo on the side or something. But it was great. Events like these do something really important, and that gives smaller communities a chance to be seen for who they are. And the rest of us to learn, participate, connect in a way that's actually, you know, really fun. And we get really good food out of it. I put that in here twice. I know there's been some conversations on how many events the city has, but experiences like this really highlight why that matters. Because it's not just entertainment, it's a way of building a stronger and more connected community. And anything that helps our residents feel like welcome neighbors is absolutely worth it. It was great. I had a blast and all the colors washed out. The glasses were a little bit of a problem, but we took care of that too.
Any other council reports? Any other council?
Well, it's not a council report, but I saw on the news, the city of Port Townsend is quitting social media.
That was going to be my good order, so I'm glad you brought it up.
I don't know exactly why, but I'm curious to know if this is a trend that's going to continue across cities, or is this a one-off event? Or
Yeah, they cited mental health and the health of the community for sort of disengaging. They'll still do community outreach. It just will not be through social media going forward. The city will not maintain a social media presence. So I thought that was interesting. Any other council reports are good in the order? If not, good, Councilmember Williams, sorry.
Oh, you're
You're muted.
muted.
There we go. Hey, am I correct that Farmers Market fires up again this Thursday? Is that correct? If I got the date wrong, I apologize. But I was curious if we know how many applicants signed up for Farmers Market this year. Has it grown? Do we have a sense on how big it might be or get this summer? If you don't have the answer, that's fine. I can dig around.
We don't, so I don't know if anyone in the city, do you have a number?
I gleaned from Rita that I think they're full and they have had to turn some
Okay.
folks away. Well,
Yeah.
and they do, the little container down there, if you've noticed in the parking lot, is theirs. We just work with them for kind of some allowed storage during their season. They had some volunteers who were using a trailer last year. They were getting older and don't want to haul stuff around to and from every week. So they came up with that idea.
I know the city made some investments in terms of infrastructure, electrical capacity and water access.
Yeah, and the gravel road in is in really bad shape. So they have asked that we do our best to repair it. We build those potholes last 2 weekends in a row and they get destroyed every time. So it is on our plan to pave. But the environmental side of that is a little slow, so we can't just pick up and go get done with the street overlay, but we're working on a paving plan down there.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Right. Then I will, during the whole meeting at 6:53 p.m., we'll reach convene at 7 o'clock.
Okay. All right, I'll call to order the council meeting at 7:01. Could you please rise for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Mayor McHenry.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mercer.
Here.
Councilmember Olin.
Here.
Councilmember Schaefer. Councilmember Kozlowski.
Here.
Councilmember Supple.
Here.
Councilmember Wiggins.
Here.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Here.
All right, I have a quorum. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda tonight? And if not, would anyone like to make a motion to adopt the council agenda?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the council agenda tonight. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion passes. Next up, we have proclamations. And the first one we have is Older Americans Month. I'll give you 1 second here. Great. And I know we have a couple people to, at least one, okay. I know we have Kira from the senior center. Would you like to come up while I read it? Or you don't have to, but if you'd like to, you can. Sorry, I always make you all turn your necks. Sorry, I popped the frame up. All right. Okay. And would you like to introduce yourself really quick?
Yeah, I'm Kira Avery. I'm the director at the Snow Valley Senior Center in Carnation. About a third of people who come to us are from Duval. So, and Cheryl is on our board.
Thank you.
I'm Cheryl.
Thank you. Nice. All right. So, whereas Older Americans Month is observed nationally as a time to recognize the contributions of older Americans, highlight aging trends, and reaffirm our commitment to serving older adults. And whereas through their wealth of life experiences and wisdom, older adults guide our younger generations and carry forward abundant cultural and historical knowledge. And whereas communities benefit when people of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds have the opportunity to participate and live independently. And whereas the 2026 theme for Older Americans Month, Champion Your Health, focuses on prevention, wellness, and personal responsibility as cornerstones of aging healthy. And whereas the city of Duval's growing population of older adults enriches our community with their strength, wisdom, and diverse life experiences, the city of Duval is committed to honoring their contributions, exploring opportunities for them to stay active and engaged, and highlighting the opportunities for purpose, exploration, and connection that come with aging. Now, therefore, I, Amy McHenry, Mayor of the City of Duval, hereby proclaim May 2026 as Older Americans Month. In the City of Duval, I encourage all residents to reach out to your older friends and family members, lend a helping hand when needed, and learn from their rich, hard-earned lessons, and always assist when needed. All right, and we've got, did I have the right one here? Oops. We have a copy of this for you, and would council like to come up and take a photo? Trying to think, do we need to move this or is it fine? Are we gonna stand right here? Okay, so I'll let one of you hold it. It's up to you. And have you all stand in front here and then council can be in the yeah. Of course. Great. Everybody fit in there? Okay.
Okay. Ready, 1, 2, 3. Great.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming tonight. And next up, we have National Police Week. And I don't know, Chief, do you want to come and stand up here? Because I have a copy of this for you when we're done. And oh, and Sergeant Paul also. I know, perfect timing. Thank you. All right. Whereas National Police Week serves as a time to recognize and honor the dedicated law enforcement officers who serve our communities with courage, integrity, and an unwavering commitment to public safety. And whereas the members of the Duval Police Department exemplify professionalism and compassion in their daily work, building trust and fostering strong relationships within the community they serve. And whereas these officers place themselves in harm's way to protect the lives and property of others, often making personal sacrifices that go unseen but are deeply felt. And whereas the Duval Police Department demonstrates a steadfast commitment to service, not only through law enforcement, but through community engagement, outreach, and efforts to ensure that Duval remains a safe and welcoming place for all. And whereas we honor and remember those law enforcement officers who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty, and we stand in solidarity with their families, colleagues, and loved ones. And whereas it is both fitting and proper for us as a community to pause and express our gratitude for the dedication, resilience, and humanity shown by the officers who serve the city of Duval. Now, therefore, I, Amy McHenry, Mayor of the City of Duval, hereby proclaim May 10th through May 16th, 2026 as National Police Week. In the City of Duval, I encourage all residents to join in recognizing the vital contributions of the Duval Police Department and to express gratitude and appreciation for their service to our community. So thank you for your service and thank you. Yes. And we've got a copy that you can find somewhere to hang that up in PD. Do you guys all want to come up again? And stretch your legs, get the blood flowing. I think Sergeant Class 2 for it.
Sure.
Oh, wait for Mike. Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Great. Thank you all. Yeah. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, here's the bottom of the time. Does our clerk already have a copy of this from a prior year? Okay, yeah, okay. Checking. Would one of you like to come stand up with me while I read this? I won't force you. Okay, well, just honoring our clerks in the room. So this is Clerks Week, right? Yeah, National Clerks Week. Municipal Clerks Week, sorry. Whereas municipal clerks serve as the backbone of transparent and effective local government, ensuring that the democratic process is preserved, accessible, and accountable to all. And whereas the office of the city clerk in the city of Duval plays a vital role in maintaining official records, supporting the mayor and city council, administering elections, public records requests, and public meetings, and upholding the integrity of municipal operations. And whereas municipal clerks are stewards of history and guardians of public trust, preserving the actions and decisions that shape the community both today and for future generations. And whereas through professionalism, dedication, and a commitment to public service, municipal clerks help ensure that residents remain informed, engaged, and empowered participants in their local governments. And whereas the city of Duval recognizes the invaluable contributions of its city clerk's office and the essential work performed daily to support good governance, transparency, and community connection. And whereas National Municipal Clerks Week provides an opportunity to celebrate the often unseen but deeply impactful work of municipal clerks across the nation. Now, therefore, I, Amy McHenry, Mayor of the City of Duval, hereby proclaim May 3rd through May 9th, 2026 as Municipal Clerks Week. In the City of Duval, I encourage all residents to learn about our municipal clerks, recognize and appreciate the important role our city clerk's office plays in strengthening our democracy and serving our community. Thank you. So next up, we have comments from the audience. During the designated public commentary period at city council meetings, individuals are allotted 3 minutes to speak, while representatives of organizations may address the council for up to 5 minutes. Before presenting, kindly disclose your full name and city of residence. Each speaker and all remarks shall be addressed to the city council as a body and not to individual members of council or staff. The city strongly advises submitting verbal comments in writing to expedite subsequent correspondence. Written comments must be received by the city clerk's office by noon on the meeting day, addressed to P.O. Box 1300, Duval, Washington 98019, or deposited at the City Hall drop box located at 15535 Main Street Northeast, or by email. Please be aware that the city council, its boards, and its commissions accept public comments only from in-person attendees at the meeting. The council does not accept handouts or printed material during public commentary sessions. Information intended for the mayor or city council shall be directed to the city clerk, who will disseminate it following the submitter's instructions. Upon receipt, the city clerk will receive written public comments and subsequently furnish them to the city council or the relevant board or commission. However, it's important to note that written comments will not be orally presented during the council or applicable board or commission meetings. Any written comments received after the noon deadline for written comments will be shared with the council at the next council meeting as a part of the city clerk's report. And with that, the first name I see signed up for yes public comment is Michaela G from Whitneyville. Yeah. go ahead and introduce yourself, and you're just for yourself, not for organization, correct? So you'll have 2 minutes.
The National Association of Realtors.
Oh, got it. Okay, so you'll have 5 minutes then. Thank you.
Okay. I'm Kayla G. I reside in Woodinville. Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. Earlier during the committee of the whole workshop, you provided an update on the Duval Municipal Code and more specifically the sign code. I was born and raised here in Duval. I'm a broker owner at the G Group on Main Street. And tonight I just wanted to offer a few comments ahead of your guys' kind of workshop and divisions from the perspective of the Association of Realtors. Thank you very much for the work that's being done on sign code. I know it's been an ever year-long kind of endeavor. And I would love the opportunity to provide some feedback. As realtors, we really greatly value the opportunity to work with buyers and sellers in Duval, and we support the city's efforts to maintain the high quality of life that our community enjoys. Our request is really simple. We'd like to ask that the city preserve the ability for traditional for sale sign advertising for homes for sale, rent, or lease, along with temporary off-premise open house A boards that do not obstruct pedestrians, vehicles, or the right-of-way. They're typically only displayed during open houses, and they only last for a few hours on Saturday or Sunday. We ask that these signs continue to be allowed without a permit or registration requirement, as open houses are often scheduled with little to no notice. Real estate signs also support fair housing principles. Signs don't discriminate, and they make housing opportunities visible to everyone and help prevent discriminatory or steering or exclusion. These signs also serve an important purpose for buyers and sellers. They help reduce market time, allow buyers to explore neighborhoods before contacting an agent. They also help ensure buyers are locating the correct property without disturbing neighbors. While online platforms do continue to grow, physical signage is important and an effective tool. We've worked with a lot of cities throughout King County as they've updated sign codes following the Reed versus City of Gilbert Supreme Court decision, and these communities have found consistent ways to preserve traditional use of temporary real estate signage while also updating their code requirements. So we welcome the opportunity to work collaboratively with the city on a sign code update that works well for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and next up, I see Cheryl McDaniel. Did you want to speak at all, or I know you were just signing in.
No,
I just wanted. No, it's okay. I just wanted to double check.
to say how much I appreciate it.
Oh. You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay. And then Kira, Avery, did you want to do a public comment, or you just okay? All right. And so seeing no one else, we will move on from public comment. Next up, we have our consent agenda. Is there a motion from the council to approve the consent agenda tonight?
So
Say.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion passes. Next up, scheduled items. I believe mayor's report, city administrator update, and all the council reports were done during the committee of the whole meeting. So with that, we will move straight on to our presentation, Agenda Bill 26-40, ADA Transition Plan with Director Laniszewski.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, and non-remaining citizens, but maybe someone Steve Laniszewski, Public Works. So what we have here to share is the City of Duval's ADA transition plan. We aren't going over it in detail. We have received a draft from our consultant team. We are just advising you folks that we are putting it out for public comment. It's on our website. There'll be some other reaches through social media and other outlets that shares this, but it's out there. The inventory of the entire city was done. I don't have the exact number, but we're about 90% non-compliant, which sadly is a pretty good number, relatively speaking, compared to our peers. So good news, bad news. Always room to improve. First slide. So this is a federally required document that helps guide how to identify and address accessibility barriers in our public facilities, programs, and right-of-way. This update builds on the city's 2017 plan and reflects current standards and best practices to ensure we're providing equitable access for all members of the community. So again, inventorying curb, ramps, sidewalk spaces, crosswalks, push button activation for activated signs, everything within the right of way relative to a pedestrian. Excellent. So purposes to come up to standard would be PROAG, that is an acronym, but I'm not even gonna remember all the acronym letter, but it's the Public Works National Standards. We now have an inventory, which is great. We didn't really have all the inventory, and side note here, keeping staff, getting good staff. Without that, we can't maintain our asset inventories here. So very important to, once you have it, to keep it fresh. Boy, there are many hazards. We have many miles of sidewalk. We're in the 40-mile range. Lots of newer assets with crosswalks, rapid flashing beacons, not only visually activated, but audibly activated. And, for one example, our audible ADA non-compliance is noted on some of our newer facilities, but we have it turned off in certain areas because of the repetitive nature of a business door, maybe 10 feet away. So those are things that we've made some choices on. Good, bad, or otherwise, but always available for comment. And this is the great outlet to do that. There's a link on our website. So yeah, key changes, more complete and accurate infrastructure. We've updated our standards to then deploy how construction occurs and all that. Next slide. So we will work on a prioritization approach after we have our hearing, and then work with our consultant on finalizing that. You can see where the high ped use areas are probably going to be pretty key near all of our public spaces, schools, transit areas where we have known barriers and gaps, and then coordinating with our planned capital projects. That'll be one of the ways to stay compliant, is trying to tie as many of these gaps and issues we can in with our capital programs, since those are real programs. Not that we can't make up an entirely new program to help offset and repair things, but we do have some tools in place to keep us compliant over time. Next slide. And implementation will occur over time. This will not be an immediate repair. I think the number is over $50 million in today's dollars to fix every incident in your system and our system that is not compliant. So yes, making it all more accessible, becoming more aware is the goal of all this. Slide. Does not commit us to repairing and fixing everything, but again, gives us a tool to have in our toolbox. We're not required to immediately repair, provide construction for all improvements. Again, providing us a tool to move forward and fix as many things as we can, and it will help provide framework for that prioritization and decision making. So next steps, we have our link active. So Larissa's doing that through this virtual open house. We will hold a hearing here in June, and in an effort to try to get as many folks as we can for transportation, it would be the same night as our TIP, our transportation program, which is a separate item. And then we can adopt in June or July. The timelines aren't as critical as we have for the TIP, which has to be turned state by July 1, but it will be something we work to establishing and concluding and getting a final product for us. We don't need to adopt it by resolution, but we figure we might as well do that. Just kind of good practice, and then it formalizes our documentation, since we did spend a significant amount of money, with this work and obtaining the asset inventory. It's just good to recognize the finality of it. That's my last slide. So you'll have more presentation in June with the open hearing.
Any questions by council? Councilmember Hernandez?
I just had a quick question. I like how comprehensive this is and how it's prioritized. But one of the things I noticed that might be missing from the prioritization list is low-income neighborhoods, where you find a lot of people who have ADA needs. There's one low-income neighborhood that looks like it will get processed pretty quickly, but only because we're prioritizing a school. Cherry Valley Elementary is right there. I would like to see if we could add, if we do really have other low-income neighborhoods in the area, I'd like to see them prioritized as well, because they'll need the help faster than most of the rest of the city.
Just a note on your comment.
Yeah.
So by HUD standard, we have no neighborhoods that qualify for low end by definition. We can't have our own, right? So
I just,
yeah.
Councilmember Olin, can I see your hand up? Also?
Yes, remember what my question was. Oh, so, there were a handful of hazards found, around the neighborhood. I know that there was some chatter several months ago about, well, when it can be fixed, and we said, well, hold on, we're working this full ADA. Do we now start working on those, or are we still working through the prioritization process before we start addressing those?
Some of those specific ones have been addressed,
They're already,
but yeah, implementing this plan has not been had yet.
yeah,
Not at that point, but things are still occurring on a daily basis because it is a living organism out there, right? So
yeah.
we're trying to work on those.
Other questions? All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to existing business, Agenda Bill 26-41, adoption of council procedures, and this is led by Mayor Pro Tem Mercer.
So, good evening, council. As folks know, we've sort of been working on this in various phases over probably, 6+ months, with review, including some discussion at the council retreat. I want to acknowledge and the feedback we've received from council. Some of it's, been wordsmithing, some it's been recommendations. The city attorney did have an opportunity to review this. Past week, he went through and made a number of updates, primarily around updating statutes and changes in law. And I think there are a couple things that he removed as either redundant and is being covered in other areas. And then the city clerk also went through the document and made sure that we were consistent in terms of punctuation, grammar, and that there were no gaps. In the packet was essentially the copy of the procedures as they exist today, and then there was essentially a redlined, updated version that had, I believe, some of Oscar's comments in it as well. And then we've incorporated, I think, Councilmember Olin found a couple of things that have also been corrected. I also wanted to acknowledge, sort of before jumping into procedures, I know one thing that Councilmember Olin had shared earlier this year was the council covenant. I didn't want to, or at least I want to make clear that we sort of haven't set aside. I think this is sort of the phase one in terms of adopt the procedures and sort of the rules of the road. And then this is more sort of an internal document that I'll bring back to a future Cal that we can sort of clarify and make sure that it's part of the agenda pack and folks have an opportunity to weigh in on that. But that would be more sort of just our internal recertification in terms of how we treat each other and operate within the council on a regular basis, just because I think more often than not, the council procedures become a reference. They don't necessarily are not something that we are deep into on a given given council meeting. So with that, the clerk was I'm trying to find it where it is in here, had gone through and summarized. I think it's under the the agenda bill. Okay, so where he summarized the various changes that have been made from the original document, and with that, unless folks want, have some specific feedback, I will open it up to the council for discussion and or a motion to adopt.
Any council members wanting to speak or make a motion? Councilmember Olin?
I move to adopt resolution 26, adopting the updated council procedures effective May 6, 2026.
Seconded.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution 26-2, adopting the updated council procedures effective May 6, 2026. Is there any discussion?
I just want to say thank you for doing the work. This was a long and tedious process. And, I think the new procedures are more succinct and cleaner and clearer than the last iteration. And, I know it wasn't fun. I know it took a lot of time. So I appreciate what you did on it. So thank you for that.
Appreciate it. I think it's tools in a toolbox. So, hopefully we won't have to refer to them often, but I do think they keep us consistent in terms of how we operate as a body and the expectations for the broader community and residents as well.
Any other council members? And then I would just add really quickly before you all vote that as someone who during my time on council worked many years on them as well, it is a huge, this was a big overhaul and it was really well done. It is a living document. You can always change it, you can always update it, but this was a significant shift for the better. So I really appreciate your work as well. All right, so just a reminder, it's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution 26-2, adopting the updated council procedures effective May 6, 2026. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. And motion passes. Next up, we have Agenda Bill 26-42, 6-year transportation improvement program by Director Laniszewski.
Evening again, Mayor, Council, staff, citizens, Steve Laniszewski, Public Works. I said this last year, sadly, this is a rinse and repeat, but for those who do not know, that our transportation improvement program is a secure program is due to be adopted on an annual basis in such time that we can turn it into law by July 1. So that said, last year we went through our comprehensive planning process that somewhat got hung up due to other elements out of the realm of transportation. So with that said, since our comprehensive plan update isn't done yet, we haven't made any changes to our underlying land use, our comp plan itself. So transportation hasn't been remodeled to identify any deficiencies. So with that note, we have the same map and same list as last year. And again, anticipating once the comprehensive plan is done, we will then roll the transportation. It's kind of the tail wagging the dog. You do your comp plan, you identify your land use, and if anything's increase, decrease, and change, then you go run your model to identify your system-wide deficiencies for transportation that are related to growth. So we're not there yet. We hope to be there very soon because everybody would like to move the comp plan past our current work program and get to the next 10-year cycle, which is someone else's problem. But I did pull the map up just so you can see we do have a functioning map. The bulk of the projects are on the spine of the city, which is 3rd Avenue, kind of left center, running north-south, bottom to top. And a good portion of that deficiency not only is identified, but we are almost to 100% design and kind of waiting for funding for that project. Otherwise, most of the whole package is the same. We will have a public hearing at the first meeting in June, and we will do that commensurate with our ADA transition plan, open house, public hearing. Really is all I have to share on the tip at this time. When we do get through the comp plan and rerun the model and identifying new deficiencies, we'll certainly have a whole different time to talk about that when we get to that point. So where we are is basically an obligation of state requirements at this time. Questions?
Councilmember Hernandez?
I just had one quick question. We talked at the last meeting about possibly synchronizing Woodinville Duval 203 with Snoqualmie Valley Road. Does this include that or can it be included?
So, and it's a great word. This is a roadmap. It doesn't mean the city can't do its own capital project, but the tip is related to the growth related deficiencies of our network.
Okay.
So that's more operational. You can have different hopes and dreams through different programming, but this is more of what's left to fix that is the deficiency of growth.
Newbie question, sorry.
No, good question. Supple.
Did Councilmember Supple, did you have a question?
No.
Any other questions or thoughts?
No actions.
No action needed on this, okay. Well, have a look at this. With that, we're at the end of our agenda. So if there are no objections, we'll adjourn at 7:30 p.m.